Okay, so we would like to dedicate this class in loving memory of Chana Freda Bas Elio Chaim Halevi, Aleha Shalom, and it's sponsored by her daughters and daughter-in-law, Rivka Guggenheim and Rivka Levine, Shira Silberstein, and Tamar Katkes. Okay. So it should be a lot of, your mother should have a lot of nachas from on high, and it should be a schus for her. Today is also the yahrzeit of Rebbetzin Chaim Mishka, the Rebbe's wife. We're going to speak about her as well. We're going to try to connect everything. Okay, so this week is Shabbos Mevarchim Adar. And in the month of Adar, in the times of the Beis HaMikdash, and even till today, we give a machatzis hashekel. A machatzis hashekel means a half a coin. And in the times of the Beis HaMikdash, this was a donation that was collected from every person, and it was used for the communal sacrifices that were brought twice a day. When I was a kid, I thought a half a coin. I thought a coin that was cut in half. Like I didn't understand what that meant, a half a coin. But what does it mean? What did they give it? I'm sorry? When did they give it? On the Kodesh? So basically, they gave it in the month of Adar. Okay. So before the month of Adar, it's like a reminder, everyone get your machatzis shekel ready, because it's going to be collected now. We actually give machatzis shekel on Tainis Esther, before Purim. And sometimes the husband or the man in the house will give it on behalf of his family. And you could go to a bank and you could get $50. It's best to do it with whatever the currency is. If the currency is $1, then to do it with a $50. The point is to do it with something with half. That's a very important part of this mitzvah. We're going to discuss why that is. So on the Shabbos before the month of Adar, or if that Shabbos is Rosh Chodesh Adar, we take out a second Torah and we read what we call Parshas Shekalim. And it's going to be read this week, Mirz Hashem and Shul. Okay. Now, this Parshas Shekalim it's part of Parshas Kisisa. And it speaks about this mitzvah of machatzis shekel, giving a half of a shekel. And the time for it, as we said, is in the month of Adar. Okay, so in the Parsha, what does it say? Hashem commands Moshe as follows. Kisisas Rosh Bnei Yisrael. Ze yitnu. This is what they should give. Kala over al kudim. Everyone had to pass by. Everyone who passes by, what should they give? They should give a machatzis shekel, a half a coin, the shekel hakodesh of the currency of the at that time, which was a shekel. And what is a shekel hakodesh? What is it? How much is it? Esrim geira. It's 20 geira. How much is it? How much is half of 20? 10. So it doesn't say that the shekel is 20 geira and you should give 10 geira. But what does it say? Esrim geira hashekel, machatzis hashekel, truma laHashem. It should be a half of a shekel, should be the donation for Hashem. Welcome, Malki. Okay, so just to recap, the question is, if a full shekel is 20 geira, why can't the pasuk say a shekel is 20 geira? You should give 10 geira. 10 geira is a complete number. Number 10, give 10 geira. It doesn't say give 10 geira. A shekel is 20 geira, you give half. Specifically half.
Because maybe at different times you're going to have a different monetary situation, and there won't be a shekel situation. Or the shekel is not 20 shekel.
Right, so the currency could change. The currency could change, and therefore we learned from this the obligation that every single year, even until today, we give a half of the currency. Okay. So we find two unique halachos about machatzis shekel, which is different than any other mitzvah that we do. The mitzvah is specifically to give half, not less and not more. What's you want to give more? I'm so generous. I want to give more. No, you can't give more. All other halachos, when we're talking about things of holiness, we always find that everything has to be perfect and complete. We don't find anywhere else, when we're talking about holy things, this concept of a half. For example, in the Beis Hamikdash, the vessels that were used, none of them could be chipped. And they all had to be full in order for it to be holy. And an animal with a little blemish, a little imperfection, could not be used. And a kohen, if the kohen had an imperfection, on his body, he could not serve. And all of a sudden, when it comes to Machzah shekel, here we want half, which is very, very unique and different than anything else. Now, there's another unique thing here, which is different than any other halacha. If I owe money, I could pay it in installments. I don't have to give everything in one day. I could pay it up slowly. Comes Machzah shekel, you can't say, look, I'm going to give a little bit today and a little bit tomorrow. You have to give the whole thing in one shot. The whole half.
I was thinking like whole. Today, challah has to be whole.
Yes.
There'll be a piece missing.
Yes. Challah is an excellent example, right? So challah, when you make lecha mishnah, you need 2 full challahs. Now there's a little bit of a dilemma, because you want to make the bracha and you want to eat it right away. So what you do is you take the 2 challahs, you make a cut. You don't really cut, but you just take the knife and kind of like slice it over. So like cut, make like a indent on top, so that to show that you want the bracha to be as close as possible to eating the bread. But when you make the bracha, you want it to be on 2 full loaves, right? So we always have this, usually in halacha, you want everything to be whole and complete. Here we see that we specifically want half, but the half that you're giving has to, the incomplete that you're giving has to be given in a complete way. Which is basically, it's 2 opposites. Give something incomplete, but give what's incomplete in a complete way. In one time. So it's 2 opposites. On one hand, it's incomplete, and on the other hand, you have to give it in a complete way. And we have to understand what is the reason for this paradox. So in order to explain it, we're going to explain it according to Chassidus. Chassidus explains why do we have to give half? There are 2 halves. One half is the Jew, and the other half is Hashem. And each of us, Hashem and us, were each compared to a half of a body. And we have to unite with our other half, which is Hashem. Hashem himself. And the Maggid of Mezrich explains this, because he's from the words Shtei Chatzaitzres. There were 2 trumpets. And the word Chatzaitzres could be divided into Chatza'ei Tzurot, which means 2, which means a half, Chatza'ei Tzurot, which means halves of form. Hashem and the Yidden, each one is half of a form, and both them together create one full form. So from the words Chatzaitzreis, Chatza'ei Tzurot, which means halves of forms, halves of shapes, and two halves make a whole. So this concept that a Jew is half and Hashem is half, this we already know from Tanya. What does it say in Tanya? That we each have a godly soul, which is a Chelek Eleka Mimal Mamish, which is an actual part of Hashem. So it's not that there's a person and then there's a neshama, but rather, Melechatchila, from the beginning, Hashem and a Yid are truly one. It's not that there's two different things that are joining, but that originally they are one from the beginning. So what does a Jew need to do? He needs to reveal his godly soul and awaken within himself the feeling that that person is only half, which desires and wants to connect with its other, with its other half, with the other half form, which is Hakadosh Baruch Hu.
You say this about marriage.
Yes, we say about marriage that we're two halves of one soul.
Right.
So we're gonna. So there's actually three things that we could say: a marriage, that the husband and wife are two halves of one soul. We could say Hashem and the Yidden are two halves, and we could say that one Yid and another Yid is also two halves. So we're going to speak about speak about them. But here it's highlighting specifically with Machatz Shekel. It's highlighting the concept that just like it's comparing, just like a husband and wife are two halves of one soul, Hashem and the Yidden are two halves of one, are two forms that are coming together. So which is a very, if you just stop and think about it, like, whoa, like what's going on here? Like you're equating like Hashem, who's infinite, with a finite creation, like we're each half, like. So there's something very novel to this. There's something very novel to this, because sometimes people could say, does it really matter what I do? Does it really matter? There's so many other people that could do things, and I'm so little, and what I could do is so insignificant. And if I open a siddur and daven for 5 minutes or not, like, does it really matter? But guess what? When you realize, according to Hasidus, that you're not a nobody. You're half. You're half, and the other half is Hashem. That's an incredible. I mean, it's almost shocking. It's an incredible thing to think about. Wow. And I think that is the secret. That is the secret. So my husband taught the saying that he ended the class and he said, as Hasidim, we're half, and the Rebbe's half. So how is it that you have kids, 14 years old? I don't know how old these kids are. The 14-year-old who saved 2 children, and then the other teenagers whose fathers were murdered. Kiddush Hashem. Where do they have the strength to come all the way from Australia and to stand on that stage last night at the Kinos? It's because you're just half. And if you just recognize I'm half and there's another half, which is giving me chayis and energy, and I'm not standing on my own. If I'm not standing on my own and I'm connected to something infinite, then it's like literally from the lowest point, to be able to reach such a high, to go from the lowest of to go from such a low, sad place to come to the kinos from all the way from Australia to stand on that stage and have 4,000 shluchos applauding for these kids. Where did they get the strength to do that? To speak, as you said, it's because these kids realize that they're not just kids. They're one with they're one with something so infinite and eternal.
It's kind of interesting when you think about, like, let's say the grandmother's telling this 14-year-old, save my grandkids.
Right.
It's a very interesting thing, because here she was, a regular 14-year-old who was coming to the party also. So even by that adult dumping it on her,
Desperation.
But I'm just thinking, like, yes, it's how we're brought up, and we don't even realize how we're brought up, and the surroundings that we're brought up, and they see their parents doing certain things, and all the kind of things. But you look at, like, even if you think about during the Holocaust, kids did strange things, adults did strange things, because things that we think are strange, but
superhuman.
They put their position, and what has it within them to go beyond my limitation, because we are part
It's
of.
this book now on Ronnie Greenwald, and he was in Muncie, and he did a lot of things, and now this is 10 PR site, and Meaningful Minute interviewed his son. He goes, so what do you think? He goes, I think he did stuff day by day. I don't think he set out to be Mike Tress, the most, whatever person. But as he did it, now that he's not here, wow. So all these kids the kids, and they grow into young adults and people like you, and they grew up with it, and then even us, we realize how much we take on whatever our parents did.
Right.
We don't even realize as we're growing up. And then it's like,
We're kind of trained into it, is what I'm saying, step by step. Like Pesach, making Pesach for, we look back and go, how did we do it? We didn't do it, Hashem did it.
100%. And that's what Chaya said. She said about saving those kids. She felt that Hashem was just telling her, just do it. And it wasn't, it was with supernatural power that came from Hashem. She and she recognized that it wasn't, it wasn't her on her own. And that's what we have to recognize.
To recognize,
Child should
like,
be able to.
when the kids say Shema, and I think she said to the kids, say Shema or something like that. It's like, because everything's ingrained.
Wow.
And then you wonder, like, when your mother said a million times, make a bracha, make a bracha, make a bracha. It's like, okay, I heard you, and now you do the same thing.
That's where the term alavavcha comes in. Put it on your heart, put it on your heart, and then when you need it, boom, comes out.
Yeah. Okay. So a person has to realize that as successful as they think they are, or as successful as everyone else thinks they are, a person is not complete by himself, because his whole metzius, his whole existence, his whole everything is only half. He's only half with Hashem. The other half is Hashem. And where is this expressed? Where is this expressed? This is expressed with the concept of Mesiras Nefesh, with a person giving up their life for Hashem. As explained in Tanya in chapter 18, which we learned, that when it comes to giving up, for when a person has Mesiras Nefesh, give up their life for Hashem, it is not connected whatsoever to logic. It's above logic. And why is a person ready to give up his life for Hashem? Because it is not possible for a Jew to deny Hashem or his unity. We cannot deny Hashem because that's our other half. It's not possible. for a healthy Jew. Sometimes, there's an exception to the rule. A person is not, but a person is not able to, but it's not a healthy situation. It's not a natural situation. The natural state of a Jew is that they cannot separate themselves from Hashem. They cannot deny Hashem because Hashem is their other half. And it's not shaykh, it's not possible for there to be a separation between a neshama and Hashem. The neshama is a part of Hashem. So Hashem does his part, and he lights up, in a situation of either bow to the cross or the sword, choice between a cross or the sword. Hashem wakes him up, right? And his neshama is shining. But in order for the neshama to feel the connection to Hashem, his essential connection to Hashem, and what are we asking of the Jew? That he doesn't have to create anything. He has to awaken the hidden love that he has within himself, his connection to Hashem. That he should understand and he should feel that his entire life force is from Hashem alone. And therefore, it's not possible for him to separate himself from Hashem. And this is why, when giving the Machatzis HaShekel, yes, you're giving just a half, but you have to give it in a complete way. Because when it comes to Mesiras Nefesh, there's no such thing as, a small amount of Mesiras Nefesh, a big amount of I'm saying, of course, our Mesiras Nefesh you can't compare to the Yidden in Siberia, in Russia years ago. But Mesiras Nefesh, what does it mean? It's not something that's in parts. Mesiras Nefesh is I give myself completely. That's what it means. It means it's a devotion, a dedication. I am yours, Hashem. I am yours. You can't be half connected. You can't be half married. Either you're married or you're not. You can't be half a Jew, exactly. So Mesiras Nefesh means when a Yid realizes and awakens within himself this truth that Hashem is my other half, and therefore, no matter what the situation is, I cannot deny Hashem because that is me. It's one. You can't separate between the Jew and Hashem. You can't separate between a neshama and Hashem because the neshama is a part of Hashem, and therefore, I belong to you, Hashem. I am yours, and I am yours. Giving yourself over to Hashem is not something that could be done in installments. I've said this story before. The story in Russia. There was a mother. And she had this boy, and she bribed the authorities not to say that he was born, because then when it would come the age of going to school, they would come and force the child to go to public school. And in public school, they taught communism. So as if this boy didn't exist. So he didn't have any papers. And she was living in Russia, and her husband was taken away for his counter-revolutionary activities of spreading Yiddishkeit. And now she has this little boy to take care of, and he has no papers, and she has no money, and she wanted to travel to her relatives to get some help, but she couldn't take her boy. So she went to the neighbor and she said, "Please, could you watch my son for a few days?" But in those days, the trains you couldn't. Nothing was reliable. So she said she'd be back in a few days, and a few days come, a few days go, and she didn't return. In the meantime, this neighbor, who was a nice neighbor, her husband was a big Russia, and he would chase this kid around the table to try to put chazer down his throat. And the neighbor, she realized this is not okay. So she took the boy to an orphanage because his mother wasn't coming back, and the mother was delayed. Those boys in the orphanage, and they did a trip for the kids, took them on a hike. And on the way back from the hike, they stopped off in a farm, and the farmer was so nice. He said, "I'm going to give all of you, your growing boys. I'm going to give everybody a glass of horse milk to drink. And he knows it's not kosher. And what's he supposed to do? But doesn't want to be ungrateful. So he acted clumsy, and his glass of milk, he made it slip out of his hands, and everyone was so sorry for him that he didn't have his milk to drink. But it was just too bad. Then they're coming back from the hike, and they're coming towards the orphanage. In the meantime, the mother comes back, and she goes running to the neighbor, "Where's my son?" And she says, "I'm sorry, I took him to the orphanage. You weren't coming back." So she's looking for her son. She runs to this orphanage, runs to that orphanage, and finally she's coming to this orphanage, and she sees the boys coming back. And all of a sudden, the boy sees his mother. He runs to his mother, and he says, "Mommy, I'm yours. I didn't drink it. I'm yours." He knew that if to keep himself pure, he couldn't drink it. And he said, "Mommy, I'm still yours because I didn't drink the milk." So this is our, who are we that we know that when a Yid knows that I belong to Hashem, I am Hashem's servant, nobody else. I'm Hashem's servant. What Hashem says, that's my priority. That's how I choose what I'm going to do, because that is my essence. That's who I truly am. That's truly, yeah.
I was in Boston for thing, and I wanted to sit outside in the sun. It was Shabbos, so you couldn't pull the beach chair. So I asked one of the little kids if they could bring the beach chair for me. She goes, "I'm religious too."
That's so cute.
5 years old, my shliach friends. I'm religious too, you know.
It's cute.
They taught them about not carrying on Shabbos.
There you go. Okay.
It used to be that we had the little Shabbos guys and we let them flip the switch, but now already you don't do that because
They're not ready.
you know that that's it. That's what they want to bring.
Okay. So this is now we understand these the two opposites. It seems like two opposites. On one hand, you have to bring something that's incomplete. On the other hand, you have to do it in a complete way. So now we understand what this means. On one hand, you're only half. You have to do your part, but the part that you do, you have to do it fully, in one time, in one shot. And you do it with one shot, not in installments, and it's above logic and it's above limitation. Hashem, I am fully yours. I'm your shliach. I'm your, I'm your servant. I'm your eved. Whatever I'm here on this earth to fulfill your mitzvahs, to fulfill your command. How do you want me to behave in this situation? Hashem, I belong to you. And the same thing is with Mesiras Nefesh. When a person actually gives up his life for Hashem, what is being revealed? When a person is ready to die al Kiddush Hashem, what's being revealed? His essence. His essence. And essence is one nekuda, it's one point. And the essence is not dividable. He gives himself fully over to Hashem. And also, this is very interesting. This is why in the flyer, I made behind the coin, I made fire. Because what Moshe Rabbeinu said, Moshe Rabbeinu had a question. You see, this Machzah Shekel was an atonement for the sin of the golden calf. And Moshe Rabbeinu had a question, how could a half a coin be atonement for such a grave sin? And it says, Ze yitnu, this you should give. Hashem had to show Moshe Rabbeinu what it looks like. And what did Hashem show him? Hashem showed him a coin, a fiery coin. And there's a lesson here. Hashem showed Moshe a fiery coin from under his throne of glory to show that this is not just a mitzvah, a money thing, a monetary thing, but it's the coin. When you give the coin has to be infused with the fire of the neshama, with the fire of the soul, with the fire of Mesiras Nefesh to Hashem. So you have to do it with passion, with excitement, with your whole heart, with the fire of your neshama. That's how you have to give your part.
It's true, though. When you give something like that.
Yeah.
Not trying.
100%. 100%. Fully present, fully invested, not just a checklist.
Right.
You know? Okay. What's the lesson for our day-to-day life? So in order to understand what's our lesson for our day-to-day life, we first have to understand what was the purpose of the Machatzis HaShekel in the time of the temples, in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. So we already spoke about it a little bit, and we said that what was the money used for? It was used for karbanos, for communal sacrifices. How do I say? So what's the word for a sacrifice? Karban. Which word do we see in karban? Karov, which means close. And also very interesting, the concept of bringing sacrifices, which is meant to bring us close to Hashem, it was the main avodah. It was the main avodah in the Beis Hamikdash. You know, when we do on Yom Kippur, when we say, oh, the avodah is the avodah of karbanos. So avodah is a very general word, but this implies that the way we serve Hashem throughout, even whether it be an animal sacrifice or anything that we do our entire day, our entire avodah has to be done in this way of that it should bring us closer to Hashem, and that it should be done with fire and passion and excitement and investment. The whole point of serving Hashem, of the point of all of our service of Hashem, is to become closer to Him. And it's the money that was used for the karbanos. It is the foundation. It's teaching us about the foundation of our service of Hashem, that the whole purpose is to bring us closer. And when do we complete our avodah? Specifically when a person feels in every area of his life that he is only a half. Okay. That even when he uses all of his power, when he uses all of his power, it's only a half. He has to understand that without Hashem, he wouldn't be able to accomplish anything. Without Hashem's help, he wouldn't even be able to conquer his Yetzer Hara. As it says, if Hashem wouldn't help you, you would never even be able to conquer your Yetzer Hara. And Hashem is the one that gives us everything that we need in order to serve Him. And everything that we do is all with the koyach of Hashem. So it's so interesting. My cousin, she said to me, Chani Segal from Ukraine, she said, I remember something about, I don't even know how I got into this conversation. She says, I remember that I was by Bubby and Zaydi's house, and you came for Shabbos, and you baked challah. And Zaydi Popak, when he made Lacha Mishnah, he used your challah. And Zaydi said that just like in Nishmas, we say in Nishmas, we say the davening that we say on Shabbos, so we say, that Hashem is so great and we could never serve Him, even if we, right? Even if anything I did, I wouldn't be able to serve you properly. But but with the gifts that you gave me, the mouth that you gave me, and with what you gave me, with that I could serve you. And there's a mashal for that. There was a poor guy living in the middle of the forest, and the king was passing through and needed a place to stay. So he stayed by this by this little by this man's house in the middle of the forest. And the king was so grateful, and the king gave him a very fancy tea set. So he put the tea set way up high in a safe place. And when the king comes through, then he takes out the tea set to serve the king. He says, "I'll serve you with what you gave me." He says, "I remember that Zaidi said this story, would say this whole mashal and says, he was so grateful for the challah. He says, yeah, I could serve you with what you brought for me." I didn't remember it, but that's what she said. So we have to realize that everything that we have and everything we can accomplish, it's all because of Hashem is giving us the power. It's not it's not me. It's Hashem. If not for Hashem, we would never be able to do anything. This is the lesson that we could learn from Machzah Shekel. When the foundation of our avodah is that we awaken this Mesiras Nefesh for Hashem, and he instills this in his heart forever, and he realizes that everything is dependent completely on Hashem. On the other hand, don't make a mistake and think that since everything is coming from Hashem, I don't have to do any effort. Maybe I should just do a little bit, and Hashem will do the rest. This is why we tell the person, you are a half. You're a Machatzah Shekel. And your half, you have to do b'shleimus. You have to do completely. Your part, you have to do b'shleimus. You have to give it all you've got. Do your part and do it completely, in a complete way, not in installments, in one time. But he has to know that at the end of the day, he's only a half. So you're a half. Now we could look at these two ways to look at it. On one hand, wow, you're a half. On the other hand, you're only a half. So it's both. You have to look at it both ways. And this applies to our entire service of Hashem in every area. And through this, we are going through serving Hashem in every area in this way that we're a half. We recognize that Hashem is the other half, but we do our half completely. We are going to merit the redemption, and the redemption is not going to come in installments. It's going to come, boom, miyad. It's going to come in an immediate way and in a complete way. When Mashiach comes, that's it. It's going to come in a complete way. The second that we do tshuva.
Ask you a question.
Absolutely.
Tshuva has to come in order for Mashiach to come? Or is it going to be the process of Mashiach that's going to cause us to do tshuva? That's, I always wonder.
Yeah.
Well, they say we're in the Zman of Mashiach now, so
Right.
we're doing tshuva, we're trying, but we should.
Yes,
So
I just want to know when he's coming already.
he might be here.
So here, I'm reading a footnote.
Yeah.
I'm reading a footnote from here from the Rambam. The Rambam says in Hilchos Tshuva, Kol HaNeviim Kulan Tzivu Al HaTshuva Ve'ein Yisrael Megal El B'Tshuva. On one hand, the Yidden cannot be redeemed unless they do Teshuvah. Kvar Hifticha Torah. The Torah promised Shesaif that in the end, Yisrael Lasus Tshuva, the Yidden will do Teshuvah, B'Saif Galusan, at the end of their exile, Umiyad Heinegalin. And immediately they will be redeemed. So we're promised that we are going to do Teshuvah at the end of the Galus, and then immediately we will be redeemed. So the Teshuvah does come first, but there's going to be an awakening. That it's a promise, it's a nevuah that we will do Teshuvah.
9/11, my neighbor who was very angry at her father wasn't allowed to be buried in the Shemeshava section, and she got very angry at all Jews today. 9/11 happens, she runs out of her basement with $1 to my sister. Could you put this in the pushka? Could you put this in the pushka? So I get that concept of we're all gonna do tshuva.
Yeah, I think that we're past that. We're past that. Every Jew is awakened somehow. Okay, now we're gonna. So we explained that Hashem is half and we're half. Now we're gonna take it a step further, and we're gonna explain how each Jew we're half, and the other half is another Jew. So up until now, we said that the other half, well, one half is Hashem and one half is the Jew. Now we're going to go to another explanation that the other Jew is the other half, and we have to unite with another Jew. We have to realize when a Jew is on his own, he's only a half. And in order to be a shekel HaKodesh, in order to be a full, whole, complete, holy shekel, you have to unite with another Jew, with a second Jew. Until you unite with every single Yid. And this is what it means, V'ahavta l're'acha kamocha. And re'acha doesn't just mean a Jew that's close to you, begashmius or beruchnius, spiritually or physically. Even a Jew that is found very far away at the other end of the world in a spiritual way, you have to be one with him. And the reason is because every single Jew is an actual part of Hashem. And when you touch essence, when you touch a part of the essence, you're touching the entire thing. You're grabbing the entire thing. And therefore, you have to unite with every single Jew because every single Jew is an actual part of God.
What does that mean?
What it means is that if you're on an airplane,
Those Jews are easy. I'm talking about like people around them.
so
If I'm on an airplane, it's easier for me to give a candle to someone on an airplane than to unite with someone I know and don't like. That's it.
So Tanya explains, how can we do Avas Yisrael? When I look at the other person from their outside, it's true. It's true. They're not nice. They're not acting nice. They put me down. They're whatever it is, fill in the blank. And how can I love them like myself? But the point is, Tanya tells us that we have to look beneath the body, or we have to look through the body and look at their neshama. Look at them from a neshama perspective. When you realize that this person standing in front of me also has, because they're Jewish, they have an actual part of God inside of them. And sometimes you need rachmanis and say, and yes, they're not acting nice, but I can love them anyway because I see through the body. Maybe whatever circumstances that happened in their life that made them this way, and we're not excusing bad behavior. But I can love this Jew because this Jew, it carries a part of Hashem inside of him. And I carry a part of Hashem inside of me. And Hashem is all one. Ultimately, this is my brother. This is my sister. Not every day does every person get along with their brother and sister. But at the end of the day, you know where you see this? You could have two kids that at home they fight a lot. Now send them to camp.
Yes.
Right? And all of a sudden they're protecting each other. Because at the end of the day, the kids realize when they have to step up to the plate. So I was away for Shabbos, and the oldest home was 9 years old, a boy. And my husband said he can't believe how helpful he was. He took such responsibility. He had the 6-year-old and the 8-year-old peeling the cucumbers. He made the salad, and he made pancakes in the morning on Sunday morning, and he made pizza on Motzei Shabbos. Because he took he stepped up to the plate and took responsibility. So this morning I wake up. My husband already left to New York, and the kids are not acting nice. So I said to them, "Is this how you acted when mommy was away?" And they went like this. They all knew that all of a sudden mommy's back. Okay, we could revert to, misbehaving. But when mommy's not there, all of a sudden, they're taking such good care of each other, right? So when a Yid realizes that this Jew, although he may be, and it was also such an incredible story by the banquet last night. There was a woman. She was the most leftiest person in the political with politics, and there was Chabad. They were trying to build a Chabad house and gave him all the trouble in the world. And then the end is that she completely turned around and she herself is a shlucha today.
So which state was she political person?
In Israel, against all the from people and against that they shouldn't open up the Beis Chabad, not to let them have a shul. Lefty.
Yeah, which is small.
She said, "My hair grows on her palm."
Yes.
And then they'll have.
Yes.
Well, she was such a beautiful woman. Like it was like the picture.
And
It's funny because of her passion, because she's so passionate, so she's able to change her passion. But if people are like wishy-washy, then they don't change. You
They
know?
don't care.
I had a friend who had 5 girls.
I had a friend who had 5 girls, and someone said to me, "How does she have? What is with like? How are these girls so amazing? From I don't know, from 10 to 15, 10 to 18.
Which girls?
My friend had 5 girls and a boy, and her girls were just really, really good girls. So someone had 2 boys and a girl. She said, "How is her kids? They're just great girls, And she saw them as young teens, No one was married and accomplished yet, And I repeated to her, she goes, "I told them that the only thing they have is each other, and they should always remember that they have each other. And that in itself, you never saw them fighting. So they had time to be, Because if kids are fighting, I guess, like you say, when it's outside, they're not or whatever. But here you just saw that they were always just good kids."
So beautiful. But can you imagine if we all realize that all we have is each other as a Jewish people? As a Jewish people, all we have is each other. All of a sudden, when there's a Hitler, God forbid, all of a sudden, we don't. Why do we need to wait? Why do we need to wait for a Haman to come to remind us that all we have is each other?
I had a long drive this morning coming from 160.
Wow.
And this week, Parsha, we're having a lot of halachos. And so part of it, they were talking about the Rambam halachos. They said, if you see a donkey or animal hurt, or a person that you hate hurt, who should you hurt first? And the Rambam said you have to have the person that you hate before the animal. Even so, there's halacha tzar balechaim. And I live in a community that is a lot not Jewish, but they're not so religious. But once in a while, we take the challah to them. We go say good Shabbos to them. And that's what, it's not that we're trying to make kill, because we grew up thinking, oh, they are the other side and we are this Jew. We're not, we're one. So that's the question is saying. That's what we have to do. We have to accept everybody and help
and realize their potential. You're this woman. She's so lefty and she's so opposed to the Chabad house and everything else. And it's funny, the Chabad rabbi said, anytime there's any opposition, he says, there's already a precedent. There's already a precedent. If you're gonna fight Chabad, the end is you're gonna be a shliach. So just be careful, So the point is, when you look at a person, and if you judge them by how they're acting, then how can I love you? But if you realize that they have a chelek mamash, the problem is that their avam starts to love for Hashem. They don't realize they don't realize who they are and what they are and their essence, and that they're connected to Hashem. They didn't have the Jewish education, but the potential they have as a chelek mamash is incredible. It's incredible. Every single person who stands up to speak, completely not from today the shlucha. If you judge them according to the sports championship, you know what I'm saying? Oh, okay, she was very good at sports, but okay, how could she? But she's completely not religious. If you're going to judge her based on based on the home that she came from and the education that she had, you're right. You're right. But if you realize the potential, a potential for a 6-year-old kid, when her father asks her, "Where do you want to go for your birthday?" and she says, "I want to go to the Ayel," you know, when you have infinity inside of you, half of you is infinity. Then there's no limit to where a Jew could reach. And we don't see the full picture. You can't judge by one screenshot.
Sometimes there's more than one screenshot. That's the problem.
Yeah,
That's somebody who repeatedly hurts you,
Right.
or still in the process of hurting you. Compassion, yes. But when it keeps happening, how do you not have bad feelings?
The only way is to see them, is to see their neshama. It's the only way. It's the only way. There's no other way. To see them for their potential, to see them for what they can be. And sometimes, and if they take the pain and they take whatever is got them to the state, to the state, and they could transform it and use it, where they can reach.
I think it's us, like I hear what Serge,
Right.
because I'm
Yeah.
thinking something also, right? Is that, I think I told you once that Rabbi Reisman gave a share and he said, people are shluchim. So if my brother would annoy me, I go, "Oh, so you're a shliach, Hashem sent you." It was more annoying for him
Yeah.
to hear that Hashem sent him to be my shliach than the whole thing, you know? So I'm thinking like I had an argument this morning and I'm trying to think, but I remember that particular person that I had an argument and I wasn't talking to him, or he wasn't talking to me rather. And then when his kid needed his appendix out and he needed to be in the hospital, I called to make sure he knew where the chesed room was. And I think he was surprised because he was already cutting me off. But I'm his big sister, so it's like whatever. Or I once had a meeting and his wife's like, she could just turn around and it'll be fine. I think because in my head, he's really my brother. So what are you fighting about? You fighting about a financial thing? But at the end, yeah, when you can't pay the rent, who's gonna help you pay the rent? We're gonna help pay the rent because
But that's
you're
an
not gonna be
actual,
12
that's
years.
an actual. That's an actual.
No, so she's saying if someone you really are upset and annoyed.
Right, but it might not be a family member or. You
But
were saying.
yeah,
you
without
accepted
it, if
or
it's
not.
not a family member, then you have to really just look into you and do we have to correct everybody
No.
who's gonna be not nice to us? Like, why do we really have to, so. I think what you're saying is you have to love the people. Just remember that the person who blocked the driveway, my husband was so funny, they put the snow on our
Yes.
So my husband goes, "I guess they don't like us."
It's very.
And my thing is, it was just their guy, right? Like, that's what I mean. Yeah, just they don't like, of course, they don't know that the guy did it. So we texted them, and then they quickly send the guy back to do it. And then my husband said, "Will you do the rest of the thing?" And the guy had a real machine, right? And the guy says no. So he was annoyed that he had to come back because he did the job in such a crazy way. How do you go and take a whole mountain of snow and then someone's driving and how are we supposed to get out?
Steps, so I want to be able to.
But the guy doesn't not like us. So that's what I'm saying, you need to be neighborly and you need to be whatever, and yeah, they might throw the garbage or not take the garbage in or whatever, that's like, it's a real person that hurt your feelings, just for if you're gonna correct them. Because you say, "Oh, I'm sure he had a bad day," so that's the only way you could get by.
I'm sure he had a bad decade.
The point is, if there's a father, you're the daughter, and you have a brother or a sister that maybe they're maybe they're not acting nice, but when you recognize that this sibling, this is my father's child, and because I love my father, I will be nice to my sibling. So when you see a Jew, you realize that who is this Jew standing in front of you? What do you see in him? You see his connection to Hashem. He has a piece of Hashem inside of him, and that's why I love him, because he's my brother. He's my brother. And just like parents, the worst thing is for parents when they see the kids fighting. It's the worst thing. Everything else you can handle, but not when they're fighting, right? And why is it? Because both of the children are both part of you. Part of you. So if one sibling realizes that by hurting the other sibling, they're hurting their parent. If you love your parent, then when you see your sibling, you realize that I'm not going to hurt them. By hurting them, I'm hurting my parent. And by loving them, I'm loving my parent. So when you see another Jew, what do you look at? You see this Jew, this person, look at his connection to Hashem. And he's my brother. He's my brother. So therefore, it's hard. It's an avodah, and you need mesiras nefesh, whatever it is. But ultimately, I see in him the Eibishter.
We can just grow up.
Yes.
Will we hear that someone said, maybe, someone said, local classes or whatever it is, where someone said, instead of saying, your chutzpah day, say that was chutzpah day. So you're not attacking the
person,
the behavior.
Right.
Right? It's just, I don't like what was done.
The action, not the person. Right.
So in that way, like if you're saying that the person, whatever it is, you need to know you have unconditional love, is someone that you care. But after that, you don't have to be there and try to correct them because they're gonna be how they're gonna be. Until they decide-
behavior they did to you.
Try to rid yourself of
You don't have to judge them, saying, I still love them.
Change your heart.
Right. Okay, so I want to go a little bit faster because I want to share a few stories about the Rebbetzin. Okay.
Don't like the action, don't pull the action.
So this avodah begins from the morning. As soon as you wake up, you say, Maida ani lefanecha. And you recognize as soon as you wake up that you are one with Hashem. And that translates into that. And what does that translate into? Therefore, I am going to unite with every single person. Okay, and here we see another lesson from this parsha, from Parshas Shekalim and Parshas Vayakel, which also speaks about unity. And we have to increase in Avas Yisrael and in Achdus Yisrael, and loving every Jew and being united with every Jew. And we should increase in giving tzedakah. And in tzedakah there are different levels. There's meiser, there's chaimesh, there's giving, and then there's giving whatever you. Then there's giving to save your soul, like just like you would give any money in the world to save yourself physically, that you would give whatever you have to save yourself. And so we should take upon ourselves the achlata to increase in tzedakah. And we should give tzedakah in the same way that we're giving a half a shekel. As it says, Adam ki yakriv mikem karban Hashem. So it should say, Adam mikem ki yakriv. It says a person who will sacrifice from you a carbon for Hashem. Seemingly should say a person from you who brings a carbon to Hashem. So the order seems different. It doesn't seem correct. So the answer is that in order for a person to come close to Hashem, it's mikem karban Hashem. From you bring the sacrifice. That he gives his entire self. He invests his entire self. And from here we see the hayra, the lesson for our day-to-day life, that giving tzedakah and acts of kindness has to be in a way that a person is fully invested with the 10 powers of the soul. Not only is it about the amount that you give, but it's your investment as well. And through this, we will merit the geula immediately, and then Hashem will do His kindness, and He will gather us all. The complete redemption. It should be immediately. I mean, okay. So I was at the Kinos, this weekend, and they had a resource fair. Resource fair means that there's many vendors and the big gym, and they have all these all these things that you could purchase. So I was thinking, what could I buy? What should I buy? Anyway, so I wanted to give a gift to all our hostesses for hosting our class. And I ended up buying a beautiful tzedakah pushka. And the pushka, it's a lucite pushka and has like a little drawer to keep coins. So it's still in New York because I came from the banquet without my suitcase, left my suitcase in New York for my husband to schlep. So Mr. Hashem, next week, Eliza, I'm going to bring it. And so we're going to increase. We should have Taira, Tefillah, and Tzedakah every time we get together. We'll increase and we'll it's so interesting. So I got the pushkas and I'm here. The idea is to give tzedakah, even just to put a little penny in the pushka. Again, we do it with all our heart, and every act is so special and so needed. And we should never say, "Oh, I'm nothing." No, you're a half. You're a half, and every mitzvah is so special. Okay, so because today is Chaf Shvat, I just want to end with a few stories about Rebbetzin Chaim Mushka, because just to give an example, just give examples of what it means, two halves of one soul. So we spoke about two halves, and we said, the Yidden and every Jew and Hashem. We spoke about two halves, and we said a Jew with another Jew. Why is the other Jew completes me? Because the other Jew is also a part of Hashem, right? So it's really the same thing. And we know a husband and a wife is also two halves of one soul, a chassid and a rebbe, two halves. We do our part, but again, you have to realize where our koyach is coming from. So here are a few beautiful stories about. We see how the beauty of how the Rebbe and Rebbetzin's relationship was. So here's one story. The Rebbetzin had an eye problem, and all these stories. Rachel Kramer shared on our WhatsApp group a few days ago. These stories were all said by Mrs. Sternberg. So I don't know if you got a chance to listen or not, but I listened to it today, and I'm repeating from what she said. So, Mrs. Sternberg, her father, the Rebbe asked him if he could be in charge of the Rebbetzins' health, because he knew a lot of doctors. So she had an eye problem, and so Rabbi Sternberg calls a top eye doctor and says, "Sorry, there's no appointments for the next 3 months." The next day he drives to Manhattan. He goes to the office. He says, "I need to speak to the doctor right now." I said, "Sorry, you can't speak to the doctor right now. Why not?" He's on the phone. Okay, I'll wait for him to get off the phone. He speaks to the doctor. He says, "You must treat a very special woman. She's the most special woman in the entire New York. And you must treat her tomorrow. You must give her an appointment. We can't wait 3 months." So he said, "Okay." Anyway, the Rebbetzin comes the next day for an appointment. And he says, "Okay, there's 2 different treatments of what we could do. You could come tomorrow. I'll do it. You pick which treatment, they both have risks. You pick which treatment, and that I'll do it on the spot." So Rabbi Sternberg says to the Rebbetzin, "Let's ask the Rebbe which one to do." The Rebbetzin says, "No, you cannot ask my husband. You can't ask the Rebbe what to do, because I don't want him to be worried about me." So Rabbi Sternberg is like, "What do you mean? The whole world asks the Rebbe medical questions." She says, "No, you have to decide. You decide which one, and I'll do it, but do not ask the Rebbe." Rabbi Sternberg goes home. He's pacing back and forth. He doesn't know what to do. Is the Rebbetzin doesn't want the Rebbe to know, but him as a chassid, he doesn't do anything without the Rebbe. He puts on his special Shabbos clothes and he writes a letter to the Rebbe. "Rebbe, what should I do? I have to make a decision which eye treatment to do, and your wife doesn't let me. The Rebbetzin doesn't want me to ask you, but I can't do anything without you telling me." So the Rebbe said, "Tell me the 2 treatments. I'll tell you which one to do, and don't tell her that you asked me." So the Rebbetzin didn't know.
But that's how we do that with the mothers and the fathers. "Ah, can I go on vacation? Can I go?" Ask Daddy, ask Mommy.
The Rebbetzin didn't want the Rebbe to worry about her. That's one story. Then there's another story. The Rebbetzin, she fell and she broke her hip. But because of her medical condition, she couldn't do hip replacement surgery. It had to be another kind of procedure, which would take months and months to heal. And so Mrs. Sternberg, she was in charge of the nurses. There had to be a nurse all the time with Rebbetzin Chaim Mushka. And this was going on for like almost a year. And Rebbe Chaim Mushka never wanted to bother Mrs. Sternberg because she was, she didn't want to bother her because she had a big family, busy with the little children. So one day it was like a Sunday evening, and she calls. She says, "I'm so sorry." It was Rebbe Chaim Mushka on the phone. "I'm so sorry for calling, but I have no choice. I need you to help me with something that's almost impossible." What's the story? The nurse that's supposed to come at 8 o'clock didn't show up. And the Rebbe is not going to leave the Rebbetzin by herself. And there's Hasidim that are waiting for Yechidus, for a private audience. And you must get me a nurse. You must get me a nurse because the Rebbe will not go to 770 unless...
That he had the whole world was relying on him.
He said, "I'm not going to go." The Rebbe, she said, "You must get me a nurse because until you get me a nurse, the Rebbe will not leave me. And I know that the Rebbe needs to be in 770 with his Hasidim." And the Rebbe could have sat and learned in his house, and the Hasidim, okay, they'll have the Yechidus in 2 days from now or the next opportunity. And she calls him. So Mrs. Sternberg says, "Okay, I'll see what I could do." This is before cell phones, So she calls the agency and she says, "It's an emergency. You must get me someone." So the agency calls back, and 20 minutes later, she said it felt like 20 days later. She was like every single minute. And finally, the agency calls back, "Oh, we have someone, but she doesn't want to come because it's so cold, and how is she going to get there?" So Mrs. Sternberg says, "What if I get you a limousine? If I get a limousine for you, will you come?" And she said, "Oh, a limousine. Okay, I'll come." Mrs. Sternberg paid $100 in those days, get a limousine to pick up the nurse, that the nurse could come so the Rebbe could go to 770. It was another story. Yeah. The Rebbetzin gave us the Rebbe. She didn't have any children of her own, and the Rebbe would come home 3, 4 o'clock in the morning from Yechidus, and they would say to her, if you just tell the Rebbe to come home earlier, he would. But she completely and totally gave the Rebbe over to the Hasidim. And she says that Mrs. Sternberg says that when her daughters were engaged, so they would go for a private audience. I'm sorry. They would go to to get a bracha from the Rebbetzin. They would go to visit the Rebbetzin with the future son-in-law, right? So whenever the Rebbetzin invited them to come, it was like the next day. And the first time that there was a new son-in-law that's going to join the family, the Rebbetzin said, "Okay, you come visit me in 2 weeks." So I thought, what, 2 weeks? I have to wait 2 weeks for? What did the Rebbetzin do? She knew that the new son-in-law would be uncomfortable. The Sternbergs, they knew they were very familiar with the Rebbetzins' house, and they came a lot. But the new son-in-law, he would probably be very intimidated. So she said, come in 2 weeks so she could do research and find out about this boy, so that when he comes, she could make him feel comfortable. And she asked, "Oh, I know you're from Israel, and this relative, that relative." And then once he was calm, then she addressed the rest of the family. First, she would speak to the son-in-law.
Thank you, Khan.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Last story. The last story. The Rebbetzin was 87 years old, and she had to go. That doctor said that she has to go to the hospital, and she said, "I can't go to the hospital because the Rebbe would give would speak to the orchim, the guests that came for Yud Shvat, and for usually a few days after Yud Shvat, the Rebbe would address all the guests. It was a Yechidus, and the Rebbe would address all the guests. In the later years, it wasn't like individual, personal, private audience with each person, but it would be like for a group. So there was a Yechidus that was scheduled for all the guests that came from far away for Yud Shvat. And usually it would be a few days after Yud Shvat, but this time it was pushed off longer. And the Rebbetzin said, "I cannot go to the hospital because if I go to the hospital, then the Yechidus is going to be canceled." And she said, after the Yechidus, then I could consult with my husband. We could talk about going to the hospital. And the end is that 36 hours later, she already passed away. She didn't want the Yechidus to be canceled, even though she really, really needed the medical help. So basically, just like Rabbi Akiva said about his wife, Rachel said, everything that I have, everything that you have, everything that I have and you have, it's all in her in Rachel's merit. And the same thing we say, that everything that we have is because of the Rebbetzin, because of her devotion to and her dedication to the Hasidim, that she knew that she basically gave her husband to the Hasidim.
Also in a very quiet way.
Yeah.
People did not even know.
No
that
one
she
knew
was-
her. No one knew her. She was very private.
Gives classes or.
No, she was very I'm saying there were people that were close to her and to her family, but she was very unassuming. I never saw her.
Why was that?
I was 8 years old when she passed away. I never saw her because
Did you go to shul?
she did not go to shul
And why is that?
because she didn't want the honor. She was completely out of.
Like a typical Rebbetzin in
No.
that way, like we grew up with Rebbetzin and it this.
Yeah.
You know, when I went for Russia for Yom Kippur, I lived in Manhattan and my brother would tell me different places that I would like to spend Yom Kippur. So I went to the shul that I had known of this Rebbe Davins. He goes, honey, it's something, you'll bring back memories, just go. So I always took my niece and I took my niece with me. And then there was a whole empty row of seats. So I sat down, I wasn't thinking. And they came over to me and go, I'm really sorry, but this table is the Redson and her family's table. And I'm like, okay, and just move over. But that's how we grew up.
Yeah.
This row was the Redsons for
Right.
Hakapos,
Right.
whatever it was.
Yeah, this was so she was called Kfuda Basmal Panima. And the way we could honor her,
Represents like that, or this one?
she was the most unassuming. No,
His mother was definitely part of the show, from what I understand.
She was?
And his mother-in-law also.
but she was the most unassuming. No one knew her.
Did not-
No one knew her. She was so special. And we say, "V'chai teina libo." What do we do on the day of a yahrzeit for a neshama? By doing mitzvahs. By doing mitzvahs, this is how we give a present. This is how we give gifts to the neshamas on high. Anyway, we should be zeichet to the Geula and Mashiach immediately. Should have all of our loved ones back. Should have Mashiach. Yeah, Chaim.
Go to her table?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Her Kevin was like, I'm
The
so
rest was next
Really?
week today.
Yes.
But again, no, it's half.
So much.
We're half. It's not. Exactly.
As you gave us so much, you're becoming a little bit secular.
Thank you.
Next time, just to learn how to relate to, even to learn how to relate to people who hurt us. We need this. In life, we'll always be hurt, to be able to have compassion. And to know that it's really Hashem giving us a gift. It's not a punishment from him. He's building us. We have to see it. If we turn it around, that it's really a good thing, then we won't be hurt.
It's for our growth. It's for our growth, ultimately. We may not see it right away, but ultimately it makes us more compassionate.
Lisa, thanks.
From some people, we learn how not to behave.
Right.
But ultimately, there's no such thing. No one could hurt us. There is no power other than Hashem. This is what we're speaking about in Tanya.
And if Hashem is doing it, then it's good.
There's
So
some.
why are we getting angry?
Exactly. Hashem is one that's orchestrating everything. Hashem is orchestrating everything. And there's a purpose. There's a lesson. There's something. And sometimes you have to have patience.
Something's in class, and then it comes up again.
Right.
Like,
So
it has
has
to
to
very
be
That's why we have to
calm.
keep learning.
Right.
Keep
It's like
learning.
That's why we keep on learning, exactly. Because
It's
it's
like
like, Mom, I'm having a personal crisis, right?
Right.
And then my sister, I go, this is how it is. This is what Hashem wants, and this is how it is. And then all of a sudden today, when it blew in my face, and I'm thinking, whatever you do, I think he's gonna be surprised if I say, I love you, I don't like your behavior, and that's it. But you have to convince yourself, like I got used to not answering back, I got used to not yelling. Then my sister was saying something, I go, when you speak to him, because he clicked in, don't yell. Don't yell. That's it. Tell him what you feel, but don't yell. So we have to kind of work on that, whatever.
And even people that don't hurt us, even our children, even, this one kvetches about this, kvetches about that, and you think like, oh, you're kvetching about this. This is the most insignificant thing in the world. But look deeper.
But you
Look
can't
at their
do that,
soul.
because, you know, when I was younger, my father would say, you don't have 13 kids, what are you so nervous about? When you're 16, you don't have 13 kids,
Right.
you're nervous about your test.
Right. So you have
Don't
to
be so nervous.
look
you know?
exactly.
So now at this stage, we don't say that. We say, what's bothering you?
Yes.
I'm sorry, it's bothering you. You know, we have different
And look
experiences.
deeper. And look deeper. If a child is acting out, or if a child is not settled, don't just look on the surface. What's really bothering you? This is very petty. You know, this is very petty. There must be something underlying here to always look deeper, and to look at them, look at every child, look at every person for who they really are and for their potential. And you never know. You never know.
Thank you.
Where a person is today, and where they could be in 10 years, in 5 years, in 1 year. As soon as they become in touch with their neshama, as soon as you become in touch with your potential, as soon as you realize that you're only half, and that you have the other half of you you have infinite abilities.
You need a ride, huh? No, I'm gonna.
I could give you a ride.
Right?
I mean.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us. Thank you. Thank you, Sarala and Rivka and Risa. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you.
For all.